9 o'clock, I'd like to call the July 17th meeting of the Person Board of County Commissioners to order this time and recognize that we do have a quorum. I'll ask Commissioner Sims to lead us in an invocation, after which Commissioner Palmer will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Let us pray, if you will. Dear Holy Father, we just thank you for allowing us to be here today. We just ask that you would lead us and guide us as we go forth with our county commissioners meeting. Lord, we lift up those who may be going through some difficult times and suffering at this time. We just pray that you will comfort them during this time. We ask that you would be with our leaders. We ask that you be with our military. We ask you to be with our EMS and law enforcement. And we just pray for their safety. We pray for our country. We pray for this county. And we ask that you would lead us and guide us as we go forth. These things we pray in your most heavenly name. Amen.
Amen.
Please let you use us to do the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is discussion, adjustment, and approval of the agenda as presented with some additions, please. We do need to add an additional closed session for the purpose to consult with the county attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege at closed session, where we become number 2. The currently listed closed number 2 will now be closed session number 3. Also, would like to announce the need to add an item to the agenda for action for financial advisory agreement addendum 2 for DEC Associates. Any discussions or motion?
Chairman Powell.
Yes, sir.
June 5th meeting, we had a request by the GOP board to create a resolution by identifying Board of Education candidates. I like the idea, and I think that we should do it basically for every position that we have volunteers at all departments. I'd like to put this on the future agenda.
Future agenda, okay, noted. Our clerk will note that. Any other discussion? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
So moved. Motion to accept the agenda with the adjustments.
Have a motion, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. At this time, in our monthly meetings, we do have a public comment period set aside. We have 10 minutes to hear concerns from the public. Do we have anyone signed up?
Yes, we have 2 individuals.
Have 2 individuals. We have 10 minutes, so each of you has 5 minutes. And so who is the first one, please?
All right, we'll ask the timekeeper, our IT staff, to post the time allotment of 5 minutes. And our first speaker is Mr. Bob Brower of Bob White Road, Roxborough.
I only have about 2 minutes worth of information, so if he's got more, I'm good.
I won't need that much. Good morning, all. My name is Bob Brower. I'm the chairperson for the Person County Environmental Issues Advisory Committee. As many of you know, for the last several years, we've focused heavily on trying to address the roadside litter issue in Person County. Roadside litter is an ugly stain on our otherwise beautiful county roadways. It's an eyesore. It harms our wildlife. It impedes the climate of our business, our real estate, and our tourism industry. We've done a lot of things to try to address this problem, including biannual litter sweeps, school programs where we try to inform the kids about it. We participate in personality and hand out materials about litter. We've also been instrumental in putting up the new roadside signs, keep NC clean and green, and articles in the Courier Times about litter and other environmental issues. Today I'm speaking in support of Sheriff Wilburn's proposal to use county inmate labor to perform litter pickup duties. This resource would provide another tool in our toolbox to help address the litter on our blighted county roadways. So I'd ask for your support for this proposal. I think it will help us, and again, it provides just another tool in our toolbox to help address a very critical problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next we'll hear from Ms. Holly Ann Rogers of Younger Road, Roxborough.
Good morning.
Morning.
I would like to express my support and commitment to the proposed Roxborough Community Redevelopment Corp. Item number 3 on your agenda today. This project is the kind of multifaceted support that has proven to be effective in moving individuals and families from the hopelessness and fear of homelessness into self-sufficiency. As Percy County faces explosive growth in the coming years, it is imperative that we establish this project, get out in front of this issue. It is a problem that is going to multiply exponentially as we go forward, so now is the time to act. We also need to support the collaborative community resources surrounding this project. I believe in this project and the ability of Phelps Lewis and his team at the Roxborough Community Redevelopment Corporation to carry it out successfully. I respectfully urge you to award this much-needed funding to create a comprehensive, effective program to address homelessness in Person County. Thank you very much for your time.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. And there are no others.
That concludes,
All right,
yes.
thank you very much. Item number 1 on the agenda is discussion, adjustment, approval of the consent agenda as presented. Do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Have a motion. Do we have further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None, motion carried. New business, item number 2, Person County Museum updates. Ms. Curry? Hi.
Excuse me a moment while I make my way up here.
And if you'd like to remain seated, that's entirely up to you. Whatever, I mean,
I'll stand up.
all right, that's good.
First of all, thank you guys so much for allowing us to be here today. Get my, oh, and there we go. I'd like to also mention we have several board members in attendance today that want to express their silent thanks. Feel free to wave. Board members. So, truthfully, we have had so many exciting things happen in the last 6 months since I saw you guys, and I'm just really thankful for the opportunity to share with you what has been going on and how your contribution to the museum has helped that happen. So, just to reiterate really quickly, and can you remind me how much time I have?
There's no time limit for you.
Right, I mean, I think.
Okay. I
5 to
timed
10
myself
minutes.
because I can
Yes.
talk a
Yes.
lot. So just to remind everyone what we asked for, we did ask for support for operations to help seed our self-sustaining model, which we're working toward, and to just address some sort of critical infrastructure needs that we had. So that was a $20,000 ask. And we did get that funding at the end of April. So here is how we used it. We have a lovely little graph here. I imagine you guys all got this before, so you've looked through it, but this is just a breakdown so you understand kind of how that money was distributed based on what we proposed. So it was distributed for the most part exactly as written. However, we did have some old building situations come up that we had to address. They were infrastructure. So we're calling those deferred expenses, but it's basically some reallocation to things that just needed to take place. And I have to admit, I forgot to put one really important piece of the puzzle in here. We are now open 3 days a week instead of 2. We're open 18 hours a week. We're still working on our Saturday, but we hope to get there soon. And we have hired another individual, which has been life-altering. It's allowed me to be able to go out into the community and do more. It's just, it's amazing, and we're really excited about that. So that has made a huge difference. So what does that look like, the difference? Well, I'm sorry, I've got too many things that click. Okay, so first of all, this is of course county property. So this is the Longhouse. This is going to be where we're able to utilize our self-sustaining model for site event rentals, for our own personal events. Big thanks to General Services and Ray Fashi and his crew, because we did a lot of work. I wish the pictures showed it more. I have a ton more if you want to see them, but we pressure washed, we expanded the ramp for safety, we got started on some of the items that we need for self-sustaining, but a lot of the funds that we had allocated toward this building got switched over to some safety issues. So that brings us to the safety. So 1901 is when the kitchen house was built. We do believe it's a relatively old front porch. We did have to replace that. We had some visitors who tripped, and pieces of the porch were actually coming up with them as they stepped up. So that was an emergent need that we had to deal with. So cooperating with Ray and with the existing county budget, we did go ahead and make these changes. This is the first thing people see. I mean, this is the first place that they come to the museum. So it was important that we do it in a historical way, but also in a budget-friendly way. And we came up with a way to kind of meet in the middle for those things. And it is truly a huge change. And you kind of can't tell that we made the change, which is what you're looking for when you're doing that historic preservation type stuff. So that did fall under capital improvements and safety, and was a decent chunk of change. Another one of those unexpected expenses that we allocated some of that original $20,000 for was to paint the roof of the general store. I don't know about you, but I think it looks amazing. We did go ahead and do that because it is a metal roof. It is the last original metal roof on that building. The others have been replaced. So it was really important that we do some work on that to preserve it as long as we possibly can. Plus, nobody wants to be up on a metal roof in the middle of August painting, so we went ahead and moved forward with that one. And then lastly, the last bit of the budget and how that was allocated just did go to those operations and security, just those types of expenses. One of the things that it was able to fund was our Field of Honor. The purchase of those flags. We had a really great response in the community coming in. This is our first year doing that. We look forward to doing that annually. But all of those items that we used were just toward the visitor experience, meaning, you know, the people that are coming in out of town. So what did we do? Well, we think we've done quite a bit since basically February. We've had a number of events, both free and ticketed, working on our fundraising as well as our friend-raising. We had our African American military history event, a ticketed tea. We've done 2 iterations of our vintage game events, and we're working right now on a way for that to be sort of an ongoing thing that people can utilize at the museum, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. We did do our Field of Honor, the amazing Uptown Race, super fun, our second year participating in that, and once again collaborating with different people and doing those games. And that also leads to how we've expanded our partnerships. So we were very lucky. We had some amazing partnerships to begin with. And we've just sort of expanded on those. So Person County GIS and the Cooperative Extension, we did our first camp this summer, and it was a blast. I don't know if any of you got to come visit Cloverton, the little town that the campers created on the museum campus. But that was a lot of fun. We've also had, you know, work with the DAR, with the library, the Chamber of Commerce. We're, you know, open and willing to partner with pretty much any organization that shares our mission and that helps promote Person County. So we've had fun with that. But we still have to make money, because we still have to keep the doors open. So we have been doing a lot of fundraising efforts. We did have our annual fund this year. We're currently at 60% for 2023. That went out in April, so that's a pretty good place to be. We're still working on that. We have had a couple of fundraising events, and we are doing more of a push, particularly now that we have another staff member, to coordinate more group tours and utilize our escape room as a source of income. So we also recently learned that our request to the Roxborough City Council for funding, which is annual, we did receive that, and it was increased. Originally, we were $5,000 a year from the city, and now we're $7,500. So we were able to get some additional support from them. Excuse me, I'm just making sure I'm not missing out on any of my notes here. But all of the funding that we get doesn't just come from city, county, and community. We are also soliciting grants. Our general store is going to open in October. Everybody mark your calendars. We hope everyone will attend. We have 2 events, a ticketed event and a free event. But we are soliciting grant funding from TDA to complete that exhibit. It's a significant amount of money because it's a significant project, and it's something that we all feel will be very impactful on tourism in Person County, for our field trips, and just something that is universal. So you don't have to be from Person County to be able to walk into that general store and connect it with your past. And we do have to walk that fine line as a tourist destination of bringing in people from outside the community and then also serving our community and preserving that history. So the general store is a prime example of how we're going to be able to do that. We have solicited a grant that we won't know about until the fall, but we're hoping to do a big event that's a tobacco heritage sort of festival with some living history, with some fun, and then launching a revitalized barn exhibit from that. So that's where some of these grants go. And I do just want to mention there are some large grants that we're going to look to pursue that are for infrastructure, but most of those require collaboration between city, county, and the nonprofit, and they have to be shovel ready. So there's a little bit of legwork that needs to be involved, but some of the work that General Services is aware of that needs to happen on those buildings, that's what we're going to seek to find some grant funding to help support that. Some of them are 100%, some of them are slight matching, so we'll see what we can do to offset that cost. So how are we doing all that? Well, these people. Our volunteer corps is completely unbelievably amazing. In 6 months, I want everybody to realize those numbers are for 6 months. $50,000 worth of monetary value in volunteers. 1,600 hours of volunteers in 6 months. That's what the people that believe in this museum are willing to come and do. And I think that's just a testament to how valuable it is to the community and the people here, and why the support from the county is so helpful, because obviously we're willing to roll up our sleeves. You see somebody painting there and get that work done. And it's important to note that that is about 300 hours a month. We only have 222 hours of staff time. So that's how important these volunteers are to us. So here are some numbers. We all like numbers and graphs. To just kind of show you where we're at, looking at the pre-COVID and post-COVID. This is, June was phenomenal. We had 104 people walk in to visit the museum in June. That's huge and amazing. And I think it's because we've had so many things going on. People are aware of what's happening. We're open more. We are on track to get up to about half of where we were before COVID. And in the little bit of work I was able to do with other comparable institutions, that's not a bad place to be. We're all sort of struggling as cultural institutions to get people back in the doors. So I'm personally thrilled with that number, and I do think with our events that we have for the rest of the year, we're definitely going to hit that at least halfway. Okay. Next, outreach. So it's not just on the campus that we are reaching out to do things. We're also partnering with and speaking at and just trying to get the word out. So we're super thankful. The Courier-Times is always very gracious to us with the column that the museum puts out every month. That gets a lot of traction for us and is just a great way to get more history out into the public. But we also do, of course, our social media, which we're working on to improve that, and then speaking at different civic groups. Sorry, I'm thinking of the word. And our schools. So we've had our first field trip since I've been here. It was wonderful. There were over 100 seventh graders. 14 of them had been to the museum. 14. Many of them said they wanted to come back. We're very excited about that. We have our first interns. We have 2 fabulous rising juniors from Person High School who have been working with us for several months. Several weeks, and will be with us through August. They are actually working on programs that we plan to take into the schools. So it's this great kind of circle of life situation. And we are looking forward to doing even more partnering with the schools. It's sort of coming together. So what's happening? Well, we have our events coming. By the way, our fundraiser August 4th, the dinner. If anyone hasn't decided to sign up yet, feel free. We would love to see you there. So we do have a mix of those fundraisers and those friend-raisers. We're trying to make sure that we are present at some of these larger, well-known Person County events. Personality, we've always really enjoyed doing the Military Vehicle Show with Veterans Council. We're going to be back at Jingle on Main for Uptown Roxborough Group. So just trying to really make sure people are aware that we're there. And then we also have projects, huge projects that we are so excited about. A lot of these you may know, but we do have our ongoing digitization. We're partnering with the library because they have a lot of the couriers on microfilm, which isn't the most user-friendly format. So we're going to get that set back up with Digital NC and hopefully get that available for free online. We do have our phone exhibit. We've gotten some great donations from that. I am still looking for a payphone and a phone booth if anybody happens to have one in a shed somewhere. But we have had unbelievably fun responses to the people that have come to visit because it is plugged up. And so these parents do hand their children a phone book and make them look up a number and dial. And it is, yes, it's amusing. So our other 2 that you may not know about, we've embarked on an oral history project. We are soliciting from different community groups and unheard groups to get these stories preserved. I'm sitting with a gentleman right now who will be 99 next month, and we're going to have multiple sessions. So there's a long list of folks for me to get together with, and it is phenomenal. It's so eye-opening. And then we are partnering with a former Personian who is a producer in Los Angeles to create a series of, they're sort of episodes, not really, they are documentaries, but it's more like episodes, so that we can find another way to get that history out there and get maybe a younger generation involved who consume things differently. So that's what's happening. Thank you so much.
Carrie, thank you for what you've done in your leadership, and 2, all the volunteers. That's what
Yeah.
makes it happen. And the progress you're making, it's a beautiful location. Preservation of Person County's history, I think, is important to us all. The older I get, the more I appreciate history. So, but it's a beautiful location, and bringing it to the forefront of not only Person County, I think it's becoming a showplace for other counties to look at and to see what you guys are doing, and appreciate that. My one question I have: membership and dues. Are you doing this on a at one time, that was voluntary.
That was voluntary,
Yeah,
yes.
so-
So our annual fund campaign has actually replaced our former membership campaign. And that's because for most people that may or may not know, I mean, we are free. There is no fee to get into the museum. It's a suggested donation. So we're trying out this model of an annual fund campaign to see if that resonates more with people on an annual contributive level. So
All right, thank
that's
you.
what that is.
Any other commissioner comments?
Two questions.
Mhm.
Previously, I'm a lifetime member of the Historical Society, and we met at the Tillman House.
Yes,
Now we're meeting at the Senior Center.
yes.
Will there be a time that we come back there,
I would-
allowed to, or?
Oh, I would love it. That particular building is on our infrastructure upgrade list because we have some indoor
you
air
telling me
quality
that.
issues.
Right.
But the Longhouse,
Okay,
the Woody House, what
Across the
everybody knows
street,
it as, you could meet there tomorrow.
okay.
Yeah, we would love it.
Okay.
And we're hoping that other organizations might see the
Activity.
possibility of using
Right.
that space as well
Right.
and making it available. So
Okay.
yeah, just let us know.
Okay. Number two, I remember the years past, before this COVID mess come into the world. They would have the streets would be closed off.
Mhm.
Will this be the new procedure going forward?
This,
You would shut, was it Moorhead?
oh, for like galas?
Yeah,
Oh,
because you're talking about a dinner there, right?
yes. So that's something that we're talking about as far from a fundraiser perspective.
Right.
But we're not sure if the best model would be to close off the street or to utilize the lot, the empty lot on the other side of to do.
Empty lot. Where's the empty lot?
The Tillman, the parsonage, that lot on the other side is the museum as well.
The yard.
The yard, yeah, the big,
Okay,
the
right.
big long,
Okay,
it
right,
used to be the
gotcha.
Hunter House.
Gotcha.
Yes.
Weather permitting.
What?
Weather permitting.
Weather permitting, yes, yes.
Okay, that's all I need. But I thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you.
Carrie, I just want to say I appreciate everything that you're doing, your staff, the volunteers, doing an awesome job. And I go back to when you were here to give a presentation and talking about some more funds, needing funds. And we approved that. And one of the things that I said at that time is that when we do something like this is to see improvement, is to see it. And so we see it. And I appreciate you doing that. And I'm just looking forward to many more things to come. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you
Anyone
all.
else? All right. Thank you very much, and best wishes on your recovery.
Thank you. I'm just gonna scoot out that way.
Item number 3 on the agenda is Roxborough Community Redevelopment Corporation, RCRC funding, request for housing first shelter operations and equipment needs. Mr. Lewis?
Good morning. How's
Morning,
everyone
sir.
doing?
Doing well.
Will we have the slides up?
Yes, there will be,
Okay.
just a second.
Okay, all right. Just want to say as the slides come up, I appreciate the opportunity once again to be before you in this formal fashion. I was before you, I believe it was in the May meeting, to give you a heads up of what the Housing Authority and its nonprofit organization, Roxborough Community Redevelopment Corporation, was embarking upon. At that time, we were seeking support, initial support from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to, one, provide a homeless shelter for this area, which is my primary reason to be before you today, and also to put in a pre-application for a rental property, a 14-unit rental units that we'd like to propose. I'm glad to report, and I'm glad to say before you today that that initial hurdle has been overcome. We have gotten to the full application stage, and that full application is due the 21st of March, so that's this Friday of July rather, which is due this Friday. And I come before you today to ask for your support for funding for this very important project to address needs that are undeniable, and I'll show with the public that need, and it's been before you, you have been privy to the slides of us addressing a problem of homelessness. I do want to say, I want to acknowledge the hard work that a group of individuals that work closely with those that are low, very low income. I want to thank our county staff, manager, assistant county manager. We've had representatives from the Christian Help Center, Sandy Daniel. We've had Annette Hampton with Safe Haven of Person County. We've had the Ministerial Alliance. We've just had a large amount of people to meet. We started meeting in January of this year. So we're fortunate that during that process of trying to address how we can address homelessness, affordable housing issues, that this Notice of Funding Opportunity, this NOFA, from the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency came about. So before we actually delve into our ask today, I'd like to just go over some things as to how we got to this position as a housing authority. And if we'll go to the next slide, please.
There's a
Oh.
advance right there, if you
Okay.
use the arrows, yeah.
Okay, all right, got you. So I represent the Housing Authority. We've been around since 1969. But in terms of public housing, it was established by the U.S. Housing Act of 1937. Public housing addresses safe, decent, and sanitary housing in good repair for low and very low income persons. And we serve folks that are at the 80% area of median income. And it just depends on the family situation as how they qualify for public housing. So there's 1.2 million public housing households throughout the country and also in Puerto Rico. They're established locally and managed locally. Funding, technical, and management assistance from the U.S. Housing and Urban Development. A lot of people get it confused that they feel that we're a part of the city. We're not. We're actually a standalone entity. And on the national level, the HUD secretary is Marcia Fudge. So as I said, the Housing Authority was established in 1969 by the city of Roxborough. The mayor appoints its commissioners. We have 7 commissioner slots. We're in the process of filling a vacant slot on that board. Basically, as I said, we serve U.S. citizens that meet income and work requirements. We do, for this housing authority locally, have a working preference. We also have a preference for domestic violence situations as well as those that have been displaced because of natural disasters. So let me just dispel a myth here about public housing, is that people feel that it's free housing, and it's certainly not. We have a minimum rent here at Roxborough Housing Authority at $50 a month, and our average rent is $274. So the average person that lives with us, and we have 210 units here in Roxborough, pays $274. So as I mentioned, we do have 210 units. We have 59 buildings at 4 sites. Those sites are Harris Gardens, which is the location where we propose to have these 2 developments located. We have Green Gardens, which is down the street from Bojangles. We have Weatherly Heights, which is across from South Elementary School, and then Lee Gardens, which is near where Walmart is, just to give you a kind of idea of where our properties are. This is from a Courier Times news article back in May 22nd, 1969, showing development at the end of what was called then Birch Avenue, and now it's Mount Bethel, Church Street. There were 74 units that went up there, and eventually, of course, like I said, we got to 210 units. So we had development there, and we hope that we get a successful response from our full application where we do more development at Harris Garden at that site. So we've been in business for 50 years, serving the very those that are in most need in our community. We have done our very best, and I think we're fulfilling that mission of providing quality housing for those that just, just have had a rough spot in their life. And we just want to make sure with all we do, we provide dignity for those that are with us. So one example of some of the things we do, not just focusing on brick and mortar, obviously, as we are the largest landlord in Person County, we certainly care about the quality of our units. We care about the people. And with that, we have 2 grant programs with the Housing Authority. One is called the Family Self-Sufficiency Program. That's a program where folks that are housed with us, they have to be a Roxborough Housing Authority resident. They can sign up. They establish goals for themselves, whether they want to get a job, they want to further their education, whatever those goals are. They come to our FSS coordinator with those goals. We set a plan, and with that, every time they pay rent, and every time and through the program, you have to commit to not receiving any form of welfare. Going through that process, money, as they turn in their rent, money goes toward an escrow account, a special account just for them. And the program lasts for up to 5 years. If they're successful with their goals, they can leave with thousands of dollars, whatever has collected through that period of time, for their first home or whatever need they have. There's no restriction on those funds. So as you see in the picture here, this is a recipient. She received $10,500 because of successfully going through this program. We've had another participant that received $7,000. So this gives you a concrete example of the Housing Authority also providing quality housing, but focusing on the residents and using the grant programs we've received to help our residents that request to move further in their life. So with these, this kind of collection of pictures, it shows you the number of collaborations that we've had over the years. Person, Family, Medical, and Dinner Center over the years has been a strong supporter of the Housing Authority. They were certainly instrumental during the pandemic with making sure our residents had the health information they needed, provided shots on site for them if they desired. We've partnered with the Person County Arts Council. We continuously have had an Expressions Art Camp every summer, which we're going to be starting. I think we're starting actually this week, as a matter of fact, for the Expressions Art Camp. Continuing that effort. Make sure the kids have something to do during the summer, something positive for them. So just a number of partnerships we've had over the years, and we continue to have. Just another picture of that. Cooperative Extension has been very much instrumental in some of the program we've had, particularly with our seniors. Just a few more pictures there. During the pandemic, we worked harder than ever to make sure our residents were safe. We had a partnership with the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, providing emergency meals for residents. We served over 14,000 meals. We continue that partnership with Person County's only senior stop for receiving food from the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. So every first Tuesday of the month, we provide meal boxes from the food bank. It's distributed to our Lee Gardens Community Center to distribute to over 100 Person County seniors. So we're proud of that. We're glad to be supporting the community in that regard. Also during the pandemic, we established 4 organic raised bed community gardens. Why did we do that? Well, we felt it was important to do something to bring residents out of their unit. Everyone, if you can recall, was sheltered in place, scared to come out. So this was our way to help that. We try to combat that hesitancy with getting out and getting some fresh air. So we have community gardens. They're thriving. This was back in 2020. They are thriving today. I encourage you to go by our sites and take a look at it. If you want to, you can grab a squash or a zucchini, whatever you want, if you like. But it's been very impactful for our community. We have established a partnership with Person County Schools, with South Elementary School. Over the summer, they have their staff to come by, led by Ms. Erin Redford. She's the STEAM coordinator for the school, to come by and work with our kids every Wednesday to teach them about gardening and the importance of agriculture, how things are grown. So just another example of what we're doing with our residents. Moving along, we have established a Second Chance Initiative, working with primarily men that are, for whatever reason, on our site. We want to get them involved with working, doing something positive. So we've been meeting with them on Thursdays, giving them positive messages, getting them jobs, and just working with them to help them with moving forward to move toward self-sufficiency. So let's talk just briefly about site and building improvements. When I came in 2018, I was faced with many challenges, and one of those challenges was the physical condition of our units and our facilities. So we've worked very, very hard to use our capital funds prudently to make sure that we get our stock up to a quality standard. So this gives you an idea of some of the things we've done with our administrative office, of our units. We've improved our branding, among other things. This is just a picture of our Weatherly Heights Community Center before renovation. That's our property off of Hurdle Mill Road. And after renovation, that's what it looks like now. And we've done that at all of our, well, 3 of our community centers. We have 3 community centers on our of our 4 sites. We made a step to increase our security, to make sure that our residents feel safe. Anything and everything we do, it all depends on the safety of the residents. If they don't feel safe, then all the programs and things I've just shared with you are for naught. So we've made the investment to put in security cameras at all of our sites, and we've had a great relationship with the Person County Sheriff's Department as well as the Roxborough Police Department to curb violence, curb crime on our sites. We're continuously improving that. We're doing the very best we can with that, but our security cameras have been very instrumental with keeping our crime relatively low. And a lot of the cameras we've had have been successful in that any crimes that occur, we use our cameras to resolve those crimes and resolve them quickly. So that's a big benefit for our residents, again, to make them feel safe. So public housing authorities can do a lot, but there are certain things we can't do. And another reason why we're here today, we can't provide emergency housing. We wish we could. We get lots of calls with people needing somewhere to stay. They're in a tent. They're living in their car. We can't provide emergency housing. We don't have the capacity to do that. We can't offer short-term housing. We receive funds just for our 210 units on our public facilities. We lease to more than 208 families in need of housing, but we recognize that that's just not enough. It's just not enough. There's just so many needs in this community. As this slide indicates, this comes from the 2022 Person County Health Assessment conducted by the Person County Health Department. Top social issues: quality of life for low income and poverty families, underemployment, unemployment. Top service issues: affordable housing, lack of emergency housing, and homelessness. So folks that, and I believe there were about 700 plus folks that responded to that survey. They've spoken. I mean, homelessness is a big issue. Affordable housing is a huge issue. And we feel like we have a solution for that, as we'll outline in just a minute. Again, why is housing needed for homelessness in Person County? We get over 70 calls in our office of people, like I said, living in substandard housing, landlord won't fix sewer issues, needing somewhere to move, just don't have any options, living outside, living with their mother or aunt. We get those calls often. That's 840 calls a year on average. We have over 200 people and families on our waiting list, waiting for a public housing unit. Again, our need is great, but our supply is low. And rising rent, poor, like I said, unsanitary conditions. All reasons why we're coming for you today and asking for your financial support for this project. So in 2019, our Board of Commissioners established the Roxborough Community Redevelopment Corporation. It is a 501c3 nonprofit. It's an instrumentality of the RHA in that our Board of Commissioners on the Roxborough Housing Authority Board also serve as the directors of RCRC. They have had plans to make waves, do something to address the affordable housing issue and also homelessness. And thankfully, during, like I mentioned, the time when our collective group started meeting in January, this opportunity through North Carolina Housing and Finance in February came about. So our board has agreed to use, after looking at various sites and getting feedback from the public of different sites to possibly make a development, decided on property that the Housing Authority already owns. And that's a little over 4 acres of land at the Harris Garden site, all the way at the end of Birch Avenue, which becomes Mount Bethel Church Street. It's indicated on the picture here with the yellow arrow there, open land, flat land. There's a ball field there. Unfortunately, kids aren't playing baseball like I'd love to do. They're just not using that open area. What better way to use that open area than to provide affordable housing, and particularly addressing homelessness in this area. So that is the proposed site for a homeless shelter, as well as 14 units of rental housing. So we're going after 2 pots of money, if you will. The homeless shelter, we can acquire up to $3 million for development only. Development only. There are no operating dollars that the state will give RCRC if we're successful. For the rental property, there's money for construction, $4 million. There is money available for subsidizing the rent for that particular program, but that's another separate entity. Unfortunately for the shelter, there's no money to operate it. That's why we're coming before you today to ask for your support with that, a one-time ask for your support. So, as I said, future development plans. This is a site plan. It's a little small here on the screen here, but the existing administrative office is in that graphic, is in the lower left quadrant of that. The new development would be in the upper quadrant, as well as upper left quadrant and then upper right quadrant. So like I said, it's basically a $7 million project. This will be new construction, modern construction. Target audience will be the homeless. And the good thing about these opportunities, these 2 pots of money we're applying for, we can also house those that are prone to be homeless. And that definition is broad. So for instance, someone could be working and lost their job at whatever business. If they can't pay their monthly rent, they would qualify for these opportunities, whether it's the shelter as well as the rental property. So I'd like to ask Mr. David Stogner. He's with Stogner Architecture. Stogner Architecture is a housing developer consultant. Because RCRC has less than 7 years of development experience, we'd have to consult with an experienced developer to help us with this process. Stogner Architecture out of Rockingham, North Carolina, brings to this project, or these 2 projects, over 30 years of experience doing affordable housing development with supportive housing development, which this is through North Carolina Housing Finance Agency for many, many years, And this is a layout of the floor plan of the shelter. And I'd just like to ask Mr. Stardner if you'd like to come up and just share a little bit more about this piece here.
All right. Appreciate the board having us today. As Phelps mentioned, my name is David Stogner of Stogner Architecture, and our focus in our business is working with housing authorities across North and South Carolina to maintain the existing properties that they have, and also to develop new properties when the opportunities come along. We've done several projects with North Carolina Housing Finance, primarily in their tax credit division. In this case, this is a special pot of money that's been dedicated just to supportive housing and homeless and at-need individuals and families. As you can see on the screen here, this would be the homeless shelter, as Housing Finance considers it a non-congregate development. As Phelps mentioned, this is a $3 million pot of money just for the development of this. So we have worked with contractors in the area who are familiar with this type of construction. We've run the budget numbers. This is what we believe we can build for $3 million. Some of that money would be going towards the development cost, some of the site work associated with it. But in here, we're looking at roughly 20 rooms for at-risk individuals and families. Each of these units would have a mini kitchen, and then they would have a multi-purpose room where the people could gather together. It's separated into a wing for male and female, but we also have spaces for families if that's the group in need. So this is intended to be more of a temporary solution for at-risk individuals. We also have the rental units that are set up as a duplex type of configuration, which would be more of the, still not permanent, but a little less temporary than this situation here. So there are additional services that Phelps and the RCRC are working together with in the community, local churches and other organizations, to be able to staff this, because there's clearly going to be a need for individuals to work here and to help those individuals. Some of those services provided would be food. There'd be an opportunity for homeless people not even to stay here, but to come in, get a shower, get a meal, and if they wanted to, they could leave right after that. If they wanted to stay, there would be an opportunity. So, you want to move on to the rental side of that?
This is just an example of.
Sure. This is a project that we worked with the Sanford Housing Authority, and the Sanford Housing Authority in North Carolina worked closely with the county and the city there to create. This is a quadplex supportive housing unit. So 4 families or 4 individuals are able to utilize this space. The type of construction, when you pass by, it often looks market rate because the way it's built, it is. North Carolina Housing Finance has certain restrictions on quality of materials, or there's a certain amount of brick that has to be involved. So this is not going to be cheap housing. It's going to be well built, and it will look like market rate. So this is an example of the level that we're going for. Now, this was a renovation, so we were dealing with some existing conditions, but again, I think this is kind of an example of what you could expect with the Roxborough Housing Authority.
Thank you, David. So as Mr. Stogner mentioned, this project is going to be significant because it's going to be quality housing, it's going to be quality development, and we feel confident that Stogner can do a great job with the architecture of it. We'll have the funding for it. We've done the plans to make sure that we're going to be in line with making it a reality. So RCRC is requesting $60,000, one-time ask. We need help with, like I outlined earlier, with operating expenses. These funds, these $3 million for the shelter don't come with any help. They can build it, help build it for us, provide the funding. But we just need help with providing the operational needs for a monumental task such as this. Those expenses will cover our staff that we'll have to have. The state has said they want to have a commercial kitchen in this facility. Commercial kitchens are very expensive, as you can well imagine. They also asked us to provide many refrigerators in the units. Let me just go back a slide here, a couple of slides here. So what's unique about this project is take out of your mind, in terms of a shelter, an open room with a bunch of cots. So the state says we can't do that, primarily because of COVID. So these will be individual spaces for families. So whether it be a 1-bedroom, 2 bedrooms for a small family. We even have on one wing a 3-bedroom. So in those rooms, in those individual units, they want us to have many refrigerators and also microwaves. So those are not costs, not a part of the money that they're offering us. So that's some other reasons why we need support from the community. And we'd certainly like to have support from this body here. So this gives you, let me go back here. This gives you an idea of some of the costs, some of the operation costs that we're looking at. Kind of goes into some of the operations specifically. We're looking at covering 24 hours with this shelter. Intake from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. So those that need help, they can come in from those times. They can't come in all hours of the night. That's just not how we're going to be set up. We have received guidance from the region's only homeless shelter, which is in Alamance County in Burlington. If you're familiar with the Allied Churches of Alamance County, they operate the areas or the region's only homeless shelter. And we're mirroring what they're doing because they've been so successful over many years. And that's what they do. They have an intake during the day. Check-in is at 6:30 p.m. And what those folks do, they don't just hang around. They go out and they work. And they're providing housing for those families. So that's why we're coining our development as housing first, a housing first shelter with a work component, aligning them with different employers, trying to slowly get them to self-sufficiency. So with the staff, $89,600, including a contract shelter manager, 3 days out of the week. With me being on site, our administrative office is literally right up the way from this proposed site. I'll be able to handle some of those administrative duties, but we'll have a qualified person or persons that we're looking at to actually do the management piece. We'll have a case manager full-time with helping out with assessing the individual and family's needs. We'll have staff for specific intake processes. We'll have a part-time cook. We'll provide meals for the folks. So those are kind of the costs that we're looking at for the shelter staff. Utilities, that's a really hard one to judge with rising rates, but we've outlined $66,000, kind of comparing with our Roxborough Housing Authority budget and making some adjustments to that. Food, very important. We're looking at having donations from the community with that. We have like I earlier alluded to, we have a partnership with the food bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina. They'll play a vital role with helping us with food and other local churches that will help us. Plates, utensils, donated. On-site maintenance, we have a staff of 4 for our housing authority under a contractual agreement between RCRC and RHA. We'll be able to handle a lot of the maintenance, and hopefully there won't be too much maintenance with it being a brand new facility. And we do understand that issue could arise. Extermination, weekly extermination. We want to make sure we have safe and cleanly facilities, so we'll have money allotted for that. Transportation, no cost. With us having a bus stop right there on site, they'll be able to access most of many places in Roxborough to take care of their shopping needs, employment, all the things they would need. Supportive services, no cost. So you saw earlier slides of our collaborations with various organizations. Person Family Medical Center, literally right up the street at the corner of Birch Avenue and Main Street. Right there, they're a part of our team willing to help out with our folks that come to our shelter. Christian Help Center is on our team. They will be helping out with the needs that they have that they can share and provide. Piedmont Community College, we want to promote education or job training. They're going to be partnering with us. Freedom House, any drug dependency issues, we have them on board to help us. And we actually have a facility on site to carry out some of those services that can be done on site. Insurance, we've allotted $20,000 for that. So that just kind of gives you a high level look at our operations and our expenses. So a slide is not included, but funding is going to be just imperative for this project for operations. So we've been in the process of working with local churches and other funders in the community to help us with the operations. And we've been very successful to have support, and we're going to have letters of support to accompany our applications for this project. We feel very comfortable with that. And we're thankful that we have some of those folks that have stepped up in the room today to support our support our mission. I do want to say as well, for us to get funding from the state, we have to have some type of partnership or agreement with some type of funding source through a construction loan. So they won't be giving money directly to RCRC. So we're having to collaborate and work with a local funder to help us with that. And monies will be paid from the state on an incremental basis. So we're thankful that we have support from Roxborough Savings Bank. They have agreed to provide, in principle, a construction loan for both projects, the shelter as well as the rental housing units, providing significant discounts with that. So we're very appreciative of Keith Epstein and the bank for supporting us. And they've supported us for many different things. We're one of the only housing authorities that provide free Wi-Fi for all of our residents. So in their unit, they can access the internet free of charge, high-speed broadband access. I know that's a big topic for this body here and for this county. Fortunately, we have gone over that hurdle with leveraging some CARES Act funds that we had to accomplish that. And the Savings Bank, Roxborough Savings Bank, has been one of our key partners with that. So this is just a continuation of their support of the Housing Authority, in particular with RCRC, with this important project. So how will an emergency shelter sustain? I pretty much laid it out for you. Partnerships, partnerships, partnerships. Faith-based communities, philanthropic foundations that will be applying for additional funding, for local businesses, civic and community organizations, all working together to make sure that we can do the very best we can to address this important issue of homelessness. Shelter services, expected outcomes, reduce homelessness, improve community well-being, promote and increase self-sufficiency. It's vital that we just don't have people to come to us and then that's it. We want them to come to us, and we have the process in place to help shape them, help mold them and guide them so they can be successful, so they can live with dignity. They may have, just had bad luck. Who knows what the situations are? But regardless, we're going to work with them as they are, as we do as a housing authority. We'll just continue that effort through our nonprofit to help the community out. And by the way, this is an economic development issue because these are folks that are primed to be able to work at the various manufacturers we have here, the various small businesses we have here. We'll be providing them some job training and skills and get them the basic needs they have so they can help our local economy. So, again, our ask is $60,000. We'd like to have a commitment today because we have to submit our application by the end of the week. And at this time, we'd like to see if you have any questions for me.
Commissioner, questions?
Mr. Chair, a couple of comments. In the construction, will we use local contractors?
There'll be a consideration of that. As our housing authority, we use local work, businesses, and that will not change with this project. So all businesses will be considered. But
So you
we
use
as a
the-
housing authority, we buy locally, for sure.
But you've used them before. local
Oh, absolutely,
contractors, right?
absolutely.
My other questions, I'll look at the numbers. And I know what you're asking for us, but when I look at it on a yearly basis, it looks like it's $185,000 a year to keep this going. What happens if you fall short? What happens if you don't get the donations that you need or the funding? What do you do then? Is there any help from the state or federal government that will help you out, or what will happen then?
So there are different funding sources that help with shelters. There's one that's the emergency shelter grant that the region, which would be this county, Granville, and several counties in this 5-6 county region area, continuum of care region, provides funding for shelters. And we'll be pulling from that, and we have other funding sources we'll be pulling from. So we feel confident that we'll overcome if there's any shortfall. And like I've outlined, we have strong support locally to make sure this happens.
My next question is with the location and with the location of the other units that you have, how are the neighbors? Are the neighbors receptive to this, or how does that work?
So we have receptive residents because they know that with new development, they're going to benefit as well. Any services that are brought to the shelter, they will benefit as well. So the shelter, the folks that live in our shelter temporarily, and we're looking at primarily a 30 to 45 day window for them to stay in the shelter. So this won't be a long-term solution. The good thing is we'll have rental housing where they could perhaps move into rental housing. Also, of course, we're a housing authority. And if we have vacancies, they could perhaps qualify for a public housing unit. But the reception is good. I showed you the slide with the community gardens. Folks that come to the shelter or live in our new developments, they can use the community gardens. All the resources we have as a housing authority, we provide our residents. They'll be able to use it, and we'll just work in unison. So there's been no real pushback on our plans.
Well, I think homelessness that we have is a very important issue that we have to look at. I've been around other cities and towns and seeing people laying on the street, cardboard over them. You see the little tents they put up, and I hope we never see that situation here in Person County. So I do think it's a very important issue, and it's also getting people back to work. That's important as well. And we do have job openings. I know there's job openings all over this county, in Person County, different facilities here, businesses. So it's very important that we get those people back to work and we provide housing for them. I understand the need. Thank you.
Others?
Commissioner Powell, yes, sir. I have the luxury or non-luxury of driving the streets of Roxborough every day in my business, and it is a very sad sight to see a car pull up beside me or past me or I pass it, and it is packed to the gill. And that tells me that person is homeless. It's sad. So I like the idea. I do have a question of concern, but it's your budget. Why exterminate weekly at $5,000? That's a whole lot of money at the end of the year. That's taking a big chunk out of your budget.
So the reason for that is, and that came from the suggestion of the Allied Churches of Alamance County. What they do is And what we propose to do, and this actually was recommended by our potential funder, North Carolina Housing Finance Agency, is to make sure we address potential bed bug issues.
That's what I was thinking.
And bed bug service is not cheap. It's very expensive. So that's why we factor that cost in and make sure we don't have any little creatures to make problems, among other services, you know,
Right.
roaches and rodents, so will prevent those issues. But it's primarily because of the potential bed bug situation.
And they spread like wildfire.
I'll add to that. I'm on a housing authority board as well. I'm a commissioner in Rockingham. I see the costs associated with bed bug treatment, and a lot of these individuals that are homeless or at risk are at places that are infested with bed bugs. That's a high likely population that could bring it in. So within the plan itself, there's a system of where the individuals come in immediately. There's a laundry facility where they would, if they're coming to stay or to eat, they'd strip down, clothes get treated in a heat-treated environment. They would shower, and that has proven to be successful in, if not eliminating, but really successful in minimizing bed bugs. We do a lot of mental health facilities, mental health hospitals, and treatment centers, and we've done the same system there. When they come in, they're treated, their clothes are treated, and that solves 99% of the problems.
And two, the short-term residencies, what we're talking about. So 1 week it's gonna be one person, and a few days or weeks later it's someone else. So I could see the need for
Turnover
it.
rate, yeah.
Right, to do this, expensive, yes.
Yeah.
But, health is more important than,
Oh, absolutely. I'm just curious.
oh, yeah.
That's a
I
good
didn't know the
question.
bottom
That's a good
line on
Yes,
that.
it is.
Yeah, so we just have to factor that in because it's just a reality that we
Right.
may face.
Reality and possibilities of.
Right.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Just to clarify, there will, and you had touched on this, but there will be a shelter staff person there 24 hours
Yes.
to verify nothing's, everything in
Yes,
case of
absolutely.
a medical emergency or.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And what's the anticipated construction date?
David, you wanted to highlight that?
So we don't anticipate North Carolina Housing Finance making a decision until close to the end of the year.
Okay.
And once that is done, there's going to be a process of the team acquiring a general contractor, and then that general contractor working with his subs, hopefully local subs, hopefully the general contractor's local. We would take the plans and develop those from the schematic level that they're at now to the construction documents. So that would take roughly 3 to 5 months, depending on how busy our office and our consultant's office is. So as we're filling out this application, I've projected the third to fourth quarter of 2025 as to when we anticipate it being completed, if all things fall into place. But a lot of things have to go right with housing finance.
And so we're looking at a year or so out before construction, before the facility to be completed. Are you just asking from this board a commitment of $60,000 since the mini fridge, the other stuff that you asked for, it won't be in place, or are you asking for the funds now?
So we're asking for the funds now.
Okay.
We're asking for the funds now because we need to have proof that we have the capacity to carry forth this homeless shelter.
What kind of security will you have?
Security, we will have security camera systems similar to what we have currently with the housing authority. Like I had alluded to, we'll have on-site personnel. And we've established a relationship with the Roxborough Police Department and a protective service agreement to surveil our properties And we'll be revisiting that to add to that with, of course, the amount of different developments we have and more people on our site.
That was a question of mine, was concern for safety. At one point, Roxborough PD had a satellite office. Does that still exist, or is it?
So we do have space for Roxborough Police Department. It's been offered, and they use it periodically, but primarily they surveil our properties, driving through, getting out of their vehicles and talking to residents and working that way. We do have a space for them at the same site, at the Harris Garden site. And it will remain available for them as they so desire.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
One other question, the 60,000, you said you need it now. Is that going to go into an account and just stay there until you need it? Because you really don't need it other than to show support right now, I think. So it's going to be 2025 or something when you actually will need the 60,000. Is that correct? Is
So-
that a correct statement? Or
That's fairly correct. We do have consultants to pay, and we do have expenses that we'll incur prior to that, because we do have to go through an environmental plan review through HUD. That's going to be a requirement. Like I said earlier, the land is owned by Roxborough Housing Authority. We have to go through a process, and I don't want to go into all the details with it, but there's a significant process to move that land from Roxborough Housing Authority to RCRC. And we're going to incur expenses with doing that. One in particular is an environmental plan for that, environmental study for that land. So there'll be costs incurred prior to the actual decision that North Carolina Housing Finance will make at the end of the year.
Further questions?
One further question. Let's just say we commit for the $60,000. Let's just say for whatever reason you don't secure the funding for it, just by chance. What recourse would be in place for the county to have that $60,000 returned, if just in case that the project does not go through?
Well, we certainly hope that won't be the case.
Yeah, but I'm just asking.
So let me just answer it this way. So Roxborough Community Redevelopment Corporation was established to provide affordable housing for this community. So we'll use those funds potentially, if the county allows, for other housing authority or other affordable housing projects, whether it be sourcing a house that's not in great shape, purchasing it, fixing it up, and providing it for a family that's in need. That's one of the other issues and other things we want to accomplish as a nonprofit. So we certainly hope we would not be in a position of returning funds when we know the need is great, as we've outlined. The need is great. Our organization is in place to address the need. We certainly would not hope to return funds. And let me just say this, I think we'll be successful with both plans, both funding opportunities, because the state has Person County as a primary county in terms of needing state funds to support homelessness. So we'll actually receive additional points in their point system because Person County is on their list, if you will, being an underserved area and not having a shelter.
So in essence, it's a goodwill gesture on the part of this board, if approved, and I have faith in Mr. Phelps and his board to deliver and be accountable for that amount of funding.
Absolutely.
Essentially.
County manager, where would the funding come from?
So I have identified two potential funding sources, one being from the contingency line item that's budgeted in fiscal year '24. We have $200,000 in that line item. We also have remaining ARP funds that have not been yet obligated. So those are currently in our fund balance and they're designated as the county's ARP funds. Those are to be used for transformative projects in our community. So if the board felt that this was something that you would like to use those funds for, that is another potential funding source.
Just a thought here, speaking of contingency, we just started a new year, and just think of the possibility of reserving that for unexpected expenses coming along this fiscal year. Think about the possibility of using those ARP funds, but that's up to you.
Mr. Phelps, how often will you give us updates on the progress of this project?
As often as this body would like.
Okay.
I'll be available for you.
Okay. I just ask, I think quarterly updates, whether it's just a email or a visit to commissioner meeting.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Chair, I'll go ahead and make a recommendation to allocate $60,000 to support the shelter operations, furnishings, and equipment.
Have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Yes.
As far as the
Manager.
funding source, if you could allocate it from a
I
particular.
would prefer
source.
with the chairman's suggestion.
Okay.
Agree.
Oh, agree.
Okay, the motion as stated with the addition of, or selecting that ARP fund, is that no other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried. Now that that's done,
Thank you so
I would
much.
say thank you for what you're doing, and I think it's a good faith effort on the people of Person County, because as I look around, none of us didn't have a nice, cool place to sleep, food this morning, and there are those in our community, and I think that's one of our duties as a society, to support those that are less fortunate than we are. So going forward, appreciate your efforts to work with those. Somewhat a month ago, I had a phone call from a person that was actually living in a car.
Right.
And very well-spoken person, had a very good points pointed out. And so there is a need in Person County. And as we go about our daily routine, we don't pay a lot of attention to that need. But
Right.
we appreciate those that do, and best wishes in your endeavor here for our less fortunate citizens of Person County. Thank you.
We thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I do have a request. If we can have, if it's possible, some type of letter of commitment for us. We do have to submit the application this week, and that would be very helpful if we can get that in writing. We appreciate that. Thank you.
Good.
Thank you so
sir.
much.
Thank you.
Again,
Next item on the agenda is item number 4, tax collector settlement. Mr. Jones.
Good morning. I actually have 3 things for you this morning. The first being the tax collector settlement, which should have a PowerPoint loading for us. So first of all, what is a tax collector settlement? It's actually required by North Carolina General Statute 105-373. And it's basically a report of monies we collected and, of course, monies we did not collect. We never collect 100%. And this is going back for the current year and the last 10 years before that. And it's probably a good time to say that, our collection rate is definitely determined by the citizens. Before the taxes are delinquent, after we send out the first notice, the original tax bill, over 90% of people pay taxes. So we have a very cooperative tax base. People come in and pay their taxes, and they take care of it before they even get a first delinquent notice. And this is a collection report, but it's also important to understand that it's not just the collectors that are doing all the work. If my appraisal staff, the listing staff, the mapping staff can't explain a bill, present a bill correctly, the citizen has a hard time paying it. So we are all working together. And we've been understaffed for the last 2 years. So even with being understaffed, we have some good numbers to report to you this morning. So I'll break this down into 3 different categories. The first of all is everything that comes into our location at Tax Office 13 Abbott Street. except for public service. Public service being over 30 companies. We always think about it being Duke Progress, but it's anything from your railroads to your different power companies to your cell phone towers, your cell companies, a little bit of everything in there. So take everything except for public service. We collected 99.28% of that. Left just over $200,000 uncollected. This is as of June 30 and the current year county only. That compares very favorably to where we were last year. Last year, that $208,000 was actually $525,000. We had one large bankruptcy last year that hurt the collection rate, but we did collect it mid-July in full. So the June 30 report compared to last June 30 looks quite different. Public service has always been 100% collection rate. And that's, since it's 30 companies, that's actually good to point out, has $6.9 million. That number has continued to go up every year, and this is the highest year we ever had. Motor vehicles, when we changed motor vehicles in 2013, the collection rate on motor vehicles went up tremendously. Most counties were experiencing 85 to 90% collection rate on vehicles. They changed it to where you have to pay your registration and taxes all at one time, and got us up to almost a 100% collection rate. You would think it will be 100%, but there's always what they call limited registration plate. So when you first get a car, they give you some time to renew your tags and pay the taxes after like 30 days. Also, there's always going to be a bad check that DMV is trying to collect. So DMV comes in 99.94%. Another thing to mention, the Duke Progress number has continued to go up every year. Time you add that what Duke Progress pays county, city, fire tax, stormwater tax, they're paying a little bit over $7 million to the county. And this year is going to be in the 19.56%, real close to 20% of our base is coming from just Duke Progress. So when I combine those three different categories together, I come up with a 99.46% collection rate. That is the highest collection rate Person County's ever had. We struggled to get to 99% for many years. 2 years ago, we made 99.39, I believe, on a future slide. Last year, we're just under 99% because of that bankruptcy. This year, the highest collection rate we've ever had. And I talk about the county levy adjusted. What I'm doing there is just letting you know, if we didn't have bankruptcies, how much would the collection rate be? How much would it change? And you can see we had very little bankruptcies this year. Therefore, the collection rate was not even 100% different when you took out bankruptcies. So again, a very good year for the county. And compare year to year to year, you can see we were at 99.43 for real and personal property. We increased to 99.28. Motor vehicles have stayed in the 99.8, 99.9% rate all the way the last 5 years. And again, public service, 100% every year. If I add all those again together, you can see the gradual increase of the collection rate. 99.85 5 years ago. A drop last year because of that bankruptcy. Again, 99.46 as our best year. Interesting to think about how we compare to other counties. When we look at the collection rate, other counties are reporting their collection rate today. So it's hard to say where we rank in other counties. So I have to look at last year. And that's not quite fair, but it's the best I can do at this point. The state rate last year was 99.21%. So we're over the average collection rate for the entire state. Break that down further into our peer counties. So counties 25,000 to 49,000 normally have a lower collection rate than the big counties. So the last year collection rate for peer counties was 98.43. So we're a whole percent over that. We normally rank number 3 or number 4 in our peer counties. Dare, Transylvania always beating us, and that's resort counties. You can understand why Dare County would have a great collection rate with some of the houses they have there. Last year, McDowell County beat us slightly, but they were 99.17 last year. So I think we're probably going to rank number 3 in our peer counties. Pretty amazing considering the staff we have and the challenge we've had over the years. And what we do to get the collection rate was we use everything we can. Delinquent notices, we send those out early January, and that gets things started. I'll do a second round in May. Advertising in the paper has always been successful. It's required by law, but the earlier you do it, the better. It's amazing, we send out tax bills, and we have a round of phone calls, and the one question they want to know, not is when it's past due, when does interest start, they want to know when you're going to put it in the paper. So before it goes in the paper, we get another wave of money coming in. So the earlier you do that, the quicker you can figure out who you need to garnish or do bank attachments in order to collect. Garnishments, it's where they get 10% of your gross pay, and we use employment security to figure out who is working where in order to get that done. We send about 1,600 certified letters for bank attachment in one batch in one afternoon. It takes about 2 months to get ready for that. All the research, figuring out where people are working, who needs to be garnished. But when they go out all in one way, then your delinquent taxes start coming in. Bank attachments is our second option. We use bank attachments less. Bank attachments is more painful for the taxpayer, and our goal being collect the taxes with less pain as possible. We really don't want to make things difficult for the taxpayer, but we got to get taxes collected. Bank attachments just grabs all the money that's in the bank account and it sends it to the tax office. And the bank will normally charge $100, $150 service charge in addition to sending us our money, even if it overdrafts the account. So we try to use garnishment first. It's cheats, which everybody knows is empty cash. So anytime someone has money at the state level, we can claim that money for taxes. That's used a lot of times to collect deceased people's taxes. We can, of course, collect from people who are still living, but we normally use that for deceased. Debt set off anytime you play the lottery and win and you owe the county more than $50, or if you get a tax refund from North Carolina Department of Revenue, not from IRS, we can claim that also. That doesn't work as well as it used to because of how delinquent the bill has to be before you submit it. So a lot of times people have already gotten the refund and gone before we can submit it, but we get old taxes from that. So it doesn't help current collection rate, but it does keep some of the tax bills paid. Payment arrangements, we really try to, if we can find a way to get the taxpayer to pay on their own, of course they're paying interest too, but something that makes sense that they will once again be current and not drag it out year after year. So we always want payments that are going to make them less delinquent next year. So we always want them to pay more than the next year's tax bill is going to be, because getting further behind this doesn't help anybody. And in foreclosure, we maintain about 100 pieces of property in foreclosure at all times, but we only sell like 10 a year. Once property goes to foreclosure, people usually find a way of paying it. Of course, there's attorney fees involved in that, and the attorney fees are paid by the taxpayer, not by the county. The foreclosure firm we're using brings in around $200,000 in taxes annually. It's a firm out of Asheville. They do 16 different counties, a bunch of cities. They do a lot of county work. A company called Kenya. I talked about the current tax bill collections, but we collect more than just the current county taxes. Prepayments is where people will go ahead and start paying on next year as early as January 1. Prepayments happen when someone does a real estate closing and they want to go ahead and pay the seller's part of the taxes. The taxpayer will bring that money to us, or the attorney will bring it to us. We put in place ACH debit back during COVID. So a lot of seniors who were having trouble coming in, we could actually draft their bank account once a month. And that's actually bringing in about $6,000 a month. We do collection fees, stormwater, prior year taxes. Prior year taxes, we normally collect about 50% of what's left for 2022. We'll collect in the next 12 months. Altogether, we're collecting a little bit more than $44 million. Not everything's listed on this thing here, so if you have added it up and it didn't add up, that's why. That just highlights some of the categories. And my favorite slide, of course, is the 11th year installment. So after 10 years, some of our collection remedies are barred. So I say some, we can't use forced collection. I can't take your bank account. I can't do a garnishment. So we write off anything that's personal property, any of your vehicles, all that's gone, but we still maintain a lien on your real property. Can't make you pay it, but I have a lien against it. So what happens is when you get ready to sell your property, they have to be paid. So it doesn't quite go away, it almost does, but we still collect some taxes that are more than 10 years old. So the taxes that were not collected, when we start off with $28 million, we're writing off 18,000. And that is writing off 6/100ths of 1%. So we're collecting almost every dollar out there, which is the only fair thing to do. If you pay your taxes, everyone else should too. So we do a real good job collecting those old taxes. Make sure that everybody's treated fair. And this again talks about the ACH debit that we put in place. One of my next items on the agenda is going to be talking about reappraisal. Our current sales ratio being at 73%. I'll explain what that is in a little bit. Gap billing is something that's caused us a lot of headaches. So gap billing is when you go to DMV and you haven't been driving your car for a while, and DMV says, we're going to change your registration period. So you have a gap in taxation and a gap in registration. Well, they make us collect that. About 2,000 bills annually, about $60,000 in taxes. Collection rate on that is 76%. And another challenge about that is many counties aren't trying to collect that. They don't even put it on their books. The 3 surrounding counties around us do not put that on their books. So their collection rate is artificially higher than ours because they don't even do the difficult bills. Now, say it's 3 surrounding counties, it's Granville, Castle, and Durham. Durham's the one who started gap billing. They decided it was too much work, so they don't do it anymore. Last year they did it was 3 years ago, and they had $250,000 worth of gap bills that they just decided not to worry about. Person County collects it. I think I owe it to the commissioners and the rest of the citizens to make everyone pay their fair share. I couldn't stand here and say, we just chose not to bill $60,000 worth of taxes. E-check's another thing we put in place. E-check's been very successful. A little bit of a headache for us, but when you pay a tax bill by credit card, we have to tag on a 2.65% service fee. And that's high if you have a tax bill on a house. E-check, of course you have to have the money in account, but it costs $1.50 for the citizen to pay us, and we get the money overnight. That really has worked out well. 250 different payments, over $1 million collected through e-check. Citizens really like that. It's a cheaper way of paying your taxes. And then again, foreclosure, $163,000 collected through the foreclosure firm this year, and that didn't cost the county anything. That is my collection report. Any questions?
Questions, anyone?
Motion to accept the report.
Have a motion on the floor to accept the report as presented. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried. So next up would be.
Next item is to order to collect taxes. All the things that went over that we do to collect money is a power given by the commissioners to the tax collector and the tax collector staff. Without an order to collect taxes, I'm just a regular person who has no authority to take your bank account, take your money, take your paycheck, and then you get order from the commissioners saying, please collect taxes next year.
Motion to direct our tax collector to collect taxes and delinquent taxes from prior years.
Motion on the floor, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion as stated, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Thank you, sir.
My final item is the consideration of a contract for our 2025 reappraisal. Just a little background, we did a reappraisal in 2021. Which state counties are required to do a reappraisal as often as every 8 years. Many counties, over half the counties, do it more frequently. Back in the early 80s, the best I can tell, Person County went to a 4-year reappraisal. That helps to keep values more equitable. So you can imagine some properties increase faster than others. Some properties go down in value. One measure we use to figure out if a reappraisal is needed is what they call a sales ratio. So what are properties selling for today based on what we said they were worth January 1st of 2021? And that's where that 73% sales ratio comes in. So we're appraising properties, tax assessment, at about 27% less than what they're selling for today. That's not a terrible issue if you think if all properties change at the same rate. But if that's never going to be the case. Some properties increase faster than others. Some properties decrease some. And your state appraised and business equipment are appraised annually. So one thing that gets factored in on your first, fourth, and seventh year, they look at that sales ratio and they say, if your county is more than 10% off, then you should do a reappraisal. And at that fourth year, if you're more than 10% off, all your public companies who are appraised annually at 100% deserve the same discount. So if we had to give 27% off to someone like Duke Progress, just easy math in my head, 10% of $7 million, $700,000. So you can see why we would need to do a reappraisal, not only to treat the public service companies fair, but also to get everything else back in line where one property may have increased a lot because of the location, desirability, whatever, and another property may have gone up a little bit less. So reappraisals are done more frequently to keep properties equitable. We did go out on a reappraisal RFP. Last time we did this, we got 6 offers. This time we got 4, and they had gone up quite a bit. And I did outline in the agenda abstract what we looked at in deciding which company we would like to go with. Of the 4 bids, the lowest bid was $616,000. The highest was $725,000. And then 2 kind of in the middle. The lowest one actually was, when you looked at it, it didn't come out to be an apple-to-apple comparison. What we asked for the reappraisal contract to include was all of the appeals, all of the data entry, and the appeals at the state level. The lowest ones came in with a bid that said the county would provide all the data entry, they would do most of the work remotely, and that there would be a per day charge for all appeals. So when you factor that in, the cheapest bid was not the cheapest bid. Then the highest bid was a little bit out of my comfort range at $725,000, which left 2 in the middle at $636,000 and $642,000. Those prices being so clear, I consider those both price-wise to be competitive. However, the one that I chose, and staff also chose independently, was Pearson Appraisal. Pearson's done work with us for 30, 40 years. They've done more reappraisal contracts in the state than any other firm. They are the largest reappraisal firm out there. They're the ones who fixed Mecklenburg's bad reappraisal in 2008. That they're a great company to work with. So I've included their RFP and included a sample contract, actually a contract that the county attorney has now reviewed for your consideration this morning.
And that amount, again, for Pearson?
It is $642,600, and that is up from where it was 2021, which 4 years ago when we entered that contract. Not surprisingly, they're up. Most of them are up. The overall is up like $175,000 from where it was 4 years ago. Reappraisal is treated a little different budget-wise than a lot of your other county expenses. The counties are required to set aside money every year for reappraisal, so the money has been set aside over the last 4 years to fund this.
Commissioner, questions? And this has been reviewed.
Yes, sir.
And- Okay. What's the desire of the board and necessary evil here, I guess?
It is.
But again, thank you for your efforts in looking into to getting the best, biggest bang for our buck, so to speak. Commissioner, questions or motion?
Make the motion to authorize staff to sign and execute contract with Pearson's Appraisal Service Incorporated.
Have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good day. Item number 7 on the agenda is resolution enacting the rules and standard regulations defined by the sheriff of Person County for the use of inmate prisoner labor for projects to benefit units of state and local government. Sheriff Jason Weber.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
Run that real quick. A few seconds.
Suffering a slight tear in my rotator cuff. Surgery scheduled for August the 2nd, so, okay, they got this up. I'm coming for you guys today to request the adoption of the resolution of counties our county working prisoner inmates as far as roadside cleanup and also on county and state property as needed. So I'll go through this presentation real quick. We will earn more money through the SMCP, which is the State Misdemeanor Confinement Program, which we already participate in, by the way. This was an act back in 2021. Any sheriff's office who utilizes MSCP, inmate labor, to maintain clean roads for a combined total of 500 hours per calendar month, and submits documentation to the Sheriff's Association showing the hours worked and road miles clean. All SMCP inmates held at that jail will be reimbursed at a rate of $60 per day instead of the standard $40 per day. The 60 is not just for the inmates that participate in work, but all inmates housed at the jail for that month. According to General Statute 162-58, it authorizes a Board of County Commissioners to enact by resolution all necessary rules and regulations for the completion of work on projects that benefit units of state or local governments by persons convicted of misdemeanors or felonies and confined in local jails. Any rules or regulations enacted by a Board of County Commissioners for this work would need to be approved by the sheriff, since inmates in the custody of the sheriff are the sole responsibility for the sheriff. This would be something similar that we would see on the side roads of Person County if it's enacted. If approved by the sheriff, this statute allows any county employee, not just the sheriff's personnel, to supervise inmates conducting work on projects under the statute such as litter cleanup. This law requires a procedure approved by the sheriff for ensuring that county employees supervising inmates under the statute are provided with notice that the persons placed under that supervision are inmates. Of course, a sheriff should first consult with their legal advisor prior to authorizing any person, such as a county employee, to undertake the supervision of an inmate in the care and custody of the sheriff, even if for an inmate work-related project. I can cut that off now. What I have before you guys is the resolution for y'all to adopt, and if you look at that resolution, it states, and it shows our jail policy that we would enact. General Statute 162-58 authorizes the sheriff of Person County to provide inmate labor to support projects that benefit unit of state and local governments. And also, this statute requires the adoption of certain rules and regulations, therefore by the Board of County Commissioners, and certain inmate work program rules and regulations that are attached hereto and incorporated herein by reference as Exhibit A. And this board believes the use of the inmate prisoner labor for projects benefiting units of state and local government benefits the citizens of Person County and their respective communities. And I hope that this board is of the opinion that this resolution, including the exhibit attached hereto, should be adopted. And the policy will state as this: the Person County Detention Center will maintain an inmate work crew to assist with maintaining the Person County Sheriff's Office property and equipment. The inmate work crew will also, when available, assist Person County personnel in maintaining county property and equipment. Penological interest: Person County Detention Center has a penological interest in allowing inmates to work in an efficient and orderly manner. Inmate work programs should be designed to provide positive reinforcement for change, to provide skills relevant to the public job market, and to assist the inmate upon release with re-entry into society. Eligibility: the captain over the detention center will prepare and maintain a list of inmates meeting the criteria to participate on the inmate work crew. Inmates will meet the following. First, inmates will be convicted with no pending charges locally or other state or in other counties or state. Inmates will be in the state misdemeanor confinement program or convicted to serve their sentence in the custody of the Person County Sheriff. Inmates' health will be considered to ensure they are capable of performing assigned duties. The staff will conduct a background check on inmates through the NCIC and CJ Lees to ensure they have no escape or sexual offender history. And the final approval rests with the Sheriff of Person County or the Sheriff's delegated representative. Inmate work crew supervision. Inmate work crews will be supervised by staff of the detention center or an employee of the Person County Sheriff's Office or Person County at all times. That will be a policy where it will be an employee of the Sheriff's Office at all times. Inmates working with county employees will be selected by detention center staff. County employees will supervise no more than 2 inmate workers. Transportation of inmate work crews. Inmate work crews will only be transported in Person County vehicles unless waived in writing by the Sheriff of Person County or the Sheriff's delegated representative. The types of tasks to be performed by this inmate work crew. Inmate work crews will be tasked to assist in the maintenance and upkeep of Person County Sheriff's Office property and equipment. Inmate work crews will be tasked in the maintenance and upkeep of Person County property and that property that is partially funded by Person County. Inmate work crews will be tasked to support projects that benefit units of state and local government, such as litter cleanup. Inmate workers will not be supervised by other inmates. Inmates will be constantly supervised. All tasks will be approved by the Sheriff of Person County or the Sheriff's delegated representative prior to assignment. Inmates will not perform tasks that are either dangerous or hazardous in any manner. Inmates will wear safety equipment while operating any power tools or motorized equipment. All inmates will be strip searched prior to returning to the housing pod of the detention center. They will lose their eligibility if an inmate they will lose their eligibility to work if they fail to perform tasks in a satisfactory manner. They violate any rules of the jail. They violate any law or ordinance, and for any reason an inmate is found to be medically unable to perform assigned task. Any loss of eligibility will prohibit an inmate from returning to inmate work crew for a period of no less than 30 days. So just to give you an example, right now we currently house about 15 state misdemeanor inmates. Out of those 15 that we have housed now, we get $40 a day. At $40 a day per 15, that's $600 a day that we bring into the county as far as revenue. Multiply that by a year, and it's $219,000. If we do the participate in this roadside cleanup through SMCP, and as long as we can report 500 hours a month, which is a task that's going to be probably challenging at first, depending on the weather, that increases it to $60 a day instead of 40. So if I'm housing 15 inmates, that takes a yearly revenue up to $328,500. Pre-COVID, we were housing about 30 state misdemeanor inmates. Then when COVID hit, we lowered our population in the jail to try to keep COVID out of the jail. And now we're on the increase of bringing back more state misdemeanor inmates. So if we could ever get that number back up to 30, you can just see the rise that much. We would get $60 per inmate, all 30 state misdemeanor inmates that we have in our jail. Whether I'm working 5, whether I'm working 10, whether I'm working 15, we still get the full $60 per inmate per day. I've been speaking with Ray Fashy about transportation-wise. He said he does have a couple of 15-passenger vans that we could use until he gets one of the PATS buses that he can transfer down to me, and we could use that to transport the inmates on any kind of work projects that we see fit throughout the county. Speaking with Ray, and I was just speaking with John Hill just a second ago, he advised me that back when they built the parks down at Mayo, that inmates were used to help build that park, saving the county hundreds of thousands of dollars. So I see it as a benefit for the county. I see it as a win-win for not just everyone, but also the inmates. They get outside, they get to enjoy the sunshine, and I know it's got to be good for that mental health to get outside of those 4 walls, those cinder block walls. Some of the projects that I'm going to have them doing on county property, if you guys see fit, is like our classroom down at the range is in need of a paint job. And speaking with Ray, he said he would provide the material, and I would provide the labor with the inmates. Same with, and I advised him if he had any projects in the county that he needed any assistance with, then that's what we can use those inmates for. I think in the past they have currently painted the inside of the jail. I think in the past, well, here recently, we've been using them every year as far as down at our firing range. They come down and clean up the range every year when we get finished. They pick up the trash, they pick up any shell casings and stuff like that. So they are a benefit to us that we can use them, and it's a great revenue generator for the county as well. Anybody have any questions?
I just want,
Go ahead.
I just want to say, I've been wondering when we would get this program back. I think it's a great program. I agree with you, is that I'm sure the inmates would rather be outside doing something than staying inside the 4 walls, if you will. And I think, again, it looks like a win-win situation to me, what you're saying. So I'm also in support of this.
They're all low-risk inmates as far as runaways,
Yeah, with the state misdemeanor
escapees.
confinement program, the counties that do participate in that, that's an inmate that's serving a sentence of 90 days up to 2 years.
Okay.
And I do have the authority, if they are participating in the program and they're working, and I can put them towards like good behavior, they can actually work off. Their benefit would be working off time that's applied to that sentence. So I do have the authority to knock a day a month off. If they work well, if they participate in the program, they get 1 day of eligibility per 30 days, allowed to get out early. So if they're pulling a 2-year sentence, you're looking at almost not quite a month of early release for them.
It's great revenue coming in also.
Yeah.
I agree with both gentlemen. It's a win-win. As we drive down the highways, it's disgraceful what we see on the side of the road. So I hopefully that will benefit. This program is presented to us. How is it presented to the inmate? Is it discretionary? They have the.
That I don't know yet.
Oh, okay.
I haven't presented it to them yet.
Mhm.
So just going by in past, they enjoyed it. They
Well,
loved
I
it.
could see that. but-
They love to come out. Yeah,
So,
they, and you know, what I had planned on doing was because if we housing 20 state inmates, that I would use 10 and have them on a 10-day rotation and run 10 at a time. That would be easier for me to get that 500-hour mark by utilizing as many inmates as I can without overwhelming the security that I'm gonna have on the scene.
The number of supervisors per number of inmates, how does that impact your daily operation?
Well, that's, you know, and I've reached out to other counties that were using this program and they have stopped because of cost effective to them. And that was because they weren't in full staff. They were having to pay overtime for their help. We're full staffed as far as deputies upstairs. I call it upstairs. We're full staff. We don't have any openings. And we were 15, I think 8 months ago, we were 15 short in the jail. Now we're down below 5. And so we have, and I was forecasting this to come up in the future, so I've been making some moves, and with the new passing of the budget and that pay study, I was able to reclassify a couple of my positions. That's going to alleviate us having to pay overtime for this program. We've got a policy where our reserve deputies have to work a minimum of 8 hours, preferred 12 hours a month. They're having a hard time getting those hours in because we're full staff. We don't need the reserve deputies if we're full staff. This is a program that I can put a reserve deputy, particularly some of our retired deputies who came back and work part-time, that I can put them helping me run this program. So it's just, I think, it's cost-wise, I think we're gonna fall very good, being that we're full staff pretty much, you could say.
Good, thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Mr. Chairman, make a motion to approve the sheriff's resolution.
Have a motion to accept the resolution as stated. Any further discussions, comments? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Motion carried, thank you. Item number 8 on the agenda is the 2023 Year of the Trail Proclamation. Mr. John Hill.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, sir.
Thanks for having me. So I'll be really brief. This is a really happy, feel-good kind of a agenda item. So as you know, in 2021, the General Assembly designated this year, 2023, as North Carolina's Year of the Trail. And of course, you have the proclamation in your packet. We don't have to read the governor's proclamation, but I wanted to come before you and just to let you know that Person County Parks and Recreation Department will be participating in some form or fashion this year to support that proclamation of the Year of the Trail, and that will be some type of event that may take place in the fall. We're hoping to have that event take place in the fall, whether it be at the prospective new park project that we have on the southern end of the county at the county farm, whether it be at Mayo Park or Sportsplex. As you know, our trail system is very, very expansive. And, you know, just to reiterate to the public and to our citizens that, you know, trail systems, not just outdoor through the woods type trail systems, but trails are also considered, you know, like walking paths, walking tracks, things like that, you know, concrete, multimodal, so on and so forth. So just to reiterate how important that is to our community, it's important to our community from a health and wellness standpoint, from environmental education, from general education, economic development, tourism, so on and so forth. And, you know, it has a very big impact on our citizens. So I'm here today just to ask you for your support in this resolution moving forward, and your support for us to as we participate in this proclamation of the Year of the
Sir,
Trail.
Commissioner, comments or questions? Hearing none, do we have a motion?
Motion made.
Motion to accept the proclamation or approve it. Any further thoughts or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion granted.
I appreciate that. And I want to say one last comment. So this weekend, I went back to visit my family, well, part of my family, in Chimney Rock, North Carolina. I don't know if you've ever heard of Chimney Rock. It's a little mountain in my mom's backyard. So we go and enjoy Chimney Rock for the trails. We're just going back and hiking trails. We get on the top of the rock, and I have a very proud moment for Pershing County. When I get on top of that rock, I'm sitting up there with a lot of people from the state and from all around, and me and Rollins is sitting beside this group, right? And this group is from Apex and Chapel Hill, and we get to talking and about what we do and stuff. And I say, I work for Pershing County, Parks and Recreation. And one of the comments from a person from Chapel Hill said, Chapel Hill could learn a lot from Pershing County Parks and Recreation. Y'all have a really good trail system down there. And that made me so proud, and so proud to be part of this community. So I just want y'all to know that, we are known in the state for our trail systems. So thank you for your support.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it very much. Item number 9 on our agenda is designation of voting delegate to the NC Association of County Commissioners Annual Conference. Ms. Reeves?
Voting credentials for the 2023 North Carolina Association of County Commissioners Annual Business Session, which is scheduled for Saturday, August 26, 2023 at 2 p.m. in Wake County, must be submitted by August 21st in order for Person County to have its delegate able to participate in the association's annual election of officers and policy adoption. So I'm requesting the board action to designate Vice Chairman Derek Sims to attend the conference as the Person County's voting delegate.
So we have a motion on the floor and a nomination.
Nominate and appoint the vice chair.
Any discussion? Except you.
Right. No discussion for me.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Congratulations. Thank you. You'll serve us well. And item number 10 on the agenda is financial advisory agreement. Addendum 2 to DEC Associates Manager Kathy.
Good morning again. You do have in front of you, in hard copy format, an advisory agreement addendum number 2 for DEC Associates, who are our debt consultants. We are asking the board to approve this addendum so that we may utilize DEC as we continue to proceed through the process of either renewing our lease with Brixmor for the Human Services facility or proceeding down the path of constructing a new facility. I will let the board know we received a proposal from Brixmor on Friday, so we will be considering that along with the 4 responses that we have to our RFP for new construction. As we've moved through this process, there are certainly many complicated financial aspects depending upon which path we pursue, and we will need to get the Local Government Commission or the LGC involved in evaluating the options. Our next step is to have a discussion at the staff level to determine what the LGC might be able to approve for us, whether that be whether they would lean towards our needing to finance and build a facility on our own, or whether or not they would entertain proposals that involve more of a public-private partnership, whereas we may lease for a certain period of time and then purchase the building. So DEC Associates has been providing us with some advice along the way, but we are at the point where they have advised that we would need to enter into a contract with them to continue to shepherd us through this process on the financial end. So the amount of this addendum is for $25,000 to secure their services, to help us determine financially the best course of action for the future of the human services operations and where they will be housed once our current lease ends in August of 2025.
You mentioned that you received something from Brixmore on Friday. Do you want to comment about how that reflects what the current agreement is? Yeah, I mean,
I have not been through that thoroughly. We have a meeting
okay.
this afternoon
That's
to
fine.
review that.
That's fine. Well, this is a huge undertaking, something that we've talked about just briefly previously, and I think kind of sort of we've agreed that there's a possibility of a new construction that would be equivalent to what we're paying now, in which we would own the property rather than sort of some kind of long-term lease. Any other commissioner comments, questions, thoughts?
Have one more thing to add.
Sure.
I didn't
Add to- I'm
mention
sorry.
the funding source for this contract, but I
Mhm.
would suggest that that come from our contingency line item for fiscal year '24.
Further questions? Do I have a motion?
We had some unanswered questions myself,
Sure.
and it's concerning to me as to whether or not this is going to be viable. And I don't like the idea of turning over property that we already own. On the homepage?
This that might be another topic. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. That's
Yeah,
another.
we're talking about the Social Services, Health Department, Freedom House, and Juvenile Justice are housed over.
Yeah,
We're
Walmart
renting
facilities.
space, leasing space for that, so we're discussing the future of those operations.
Yeah, I'm a page ahead, I'm sorry. So no, I don't have any comments.
Okay.
On this, the company DEC Associates, was there someone else you said you were needing to talk to, or this is our choice here?
Well, we already contract with them. This is Doug Carter. He most recently came to the budget retreat.
Okay.
So they are the consultants who created our debt model, who we work closely with for financial advice. They're working with us on the school system, financing. So this is an extension of the services that they're already providing for us.
Okay.
They're very familiar with our finances
Yes,
and
they
our
are.
policies
Yeah.
and procedures. Yes.
That's good. All right.
Yes.
Were you waiting for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion.
A motion to approve the request as stated. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Motion carried. Okay, we're gonna finish by lunch. A lot to be covered. Just a few comments briefly here. If you haven't been downstairs in the auditorium, I think those renovations are complete and very, very nice facility there. So at some point, stick your head in the door and take a look at. With the airport hangar, we do have a new client coming in. I don't know if we have the airplane or airplanes in that facility or not, but just a few loose ends to tie up, but a beautiful building, and looking forward to their occupancy there in agreement with their lease with them. Last week, we did have a group of us had a meeting with NC Commerce and NCDPI and Commissioner, or rather now, Representative Jeffers, related to economic development in Person County, and I think was a good meeting related to some of the projects that we have on the table at this point, and gives us a better sense of moving forward. Of course, a lot of that is based on approval of the current state budget, so we don't know about some funding there, but we're keeping ourselves in front of them and continued communications with budget writers and our representatives. We do continue to have talks with Duke Energy and their proposed future in Person County, and we continue to hear comments such as Person County is the preferred site in North Carolina and in the region when it comes to new generation going forward, and it's very encouraging. And if you have any communications with Duke Energy people, express your interest or show your interest there in keeping their presence in Person County. And I don't know about the Brightspeed grant that was announced recently, 1.9 million, that will enhance broadband in Person County, and we'd already received one grant. Didn't know if we'd received the second, but we did, and we're very happy that we did, and look forward to working with Brightspeed and improved connectivity throughout our county. We are continuing our talks with the Mega Park stakeholders. That's active and fluid, and wanted to let the citizens know that we continue to work the possibility of securing a client there, and so lots of good things happening, and we're working diligently for future growth and expansion in Person County. That's all I have, and Manager Kathy, any?
Well, I'm glad Russell is still here. I'd like to publicly thank him and his staff for all of their hard work and congratulate them on their highest collection rate ever. So thank you, Russell.
That's a good comment. Yeah, you do a very good job. Commissioner Sims.
Just a little bit on public safety. I think everyone knows that the weather we're having, though it's going to be very hot over the next week. Those people who are working outside really need to take care. Be aware of heat stress, drink plenty of water. I was out there this past weekend and outside with a project, and yeah, it got really hot. And so anyway, just advise people, be careful. It's going to be very hot. The heat index is going to be way up. So that's it.
Commissioner Palmer.
Yes, I would say, as a summary, I think we accomplished a whole lot today for the betterment of Person County. As a follow-up, I would like to ask, did you ever get a mapping of this Brightspeed expansion?
I have not received that yet. Brian also reached out to the state to request a map, but we have not been able to get one yet from either source.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Perrier.
No report.
Commissioner Thomas. Let me back up. I had a note here and I failed to see it a second ago. I'd like to point out that Ben Tillett, who is on our local health board, who is currently serving as president-elect, and he has been, of course, elected to the position of president of the National Association of Local Boards of Health beginning August 1st. So that's a good thing for us and for Person County, and his efforts to work with the Board of Health, and again, showing the face of Person County on a national basis in this case. If no other business, I'd like to have a motion to go into closed session. Closed session number 1, a motion to enter into General Statute 143-318-11A4. And those permitted to attend would be County Attorney Ellis Hankins, County Manager Catherine Gathy, Clerk to the Board Brenda Reeves, Economic Development Director Brandy Lynch, and EDC President Philip Allen. We have a motion to go into closed session.
So moved.
A motion to go into closed session. We need a minute or two to get situated, I guess.